welcome to Hub City Game Day. I'm Bethal Miles, your host for today's show. This is the premiere of Hub City Game Day. Who is this right here to my right?
I'm Andy Baeuerle.
And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm the editor of Student Prints here at Southern Miss, and been a writer for a while, sports writer for about a year or two, and just looking forward to some great college football this season.
Hey man, welcome to Hattiesburg. Welcome to Hub City Game Day, baby. Who is this right here to my left?
Calhoun, man.
What's
Glad
going
to be here, man. I'm a track and field athlete here at Southern Miss. Was a football player, not for Southern Miss, but played a little bit. I'm just glad to be here. Talk about the greatest game on the earth, man.
Hey man, the greatest game on earth is why we're here, and here we go. Let's dive right into it. We're here in Spirit Park, right? Yep. Let's talk a little bit about Southern Miss's performance. It was 31-0, a SEC opponent. We knew it would be hard. Andy, what you thinking about last performance?
It was a rough game. Now, I will say we can't judge a season off of a loss to an SEC team, but it was an ugly loss, man. Southern Miss struggled on both sides of the ball. On offense, couldn't get a run game going, couldn't get a pass game going. Tate threw 2 interceptions last week. It was an ugly game that way. And then we struggled on the run game, if I'm being honest. Chandler Pittman and Kenyon Clay and Drake Clark, we just couldn't get the ball moving on the ground. Every time we had a run, Kentucky saw it. Every time we had a pass, Kentucky was there in Tate's face or they were in the receiver's face.
And to even give Southern Miss a little bit of leeway, there was a couple rain delays. Even the University of Kentucky's coach was like, I've never seen rain delays like this, Gabe. What do you think the Golden Eagles need to do today to improve on the performance that we've seen? Now, this isn't an SEC opponent, but what do you think they need to do today to improve?
Honestly, one key player I want to see get involved more is Ethan Crawford. Now, Tate Rodemaker is a great QB. We all know this, but Ethan Crawford brings the dynamics to the game that Tate doesn't quite have, the running, the passing. He can spread it out more. Give the ball to Rodriguez Clark, who last year had a great season behind Frank Gore. That's going to be some of the keys. In the defensive line, linebackers, the whole front seven has to get home. Brock Vandergraff is not a great quarterback by any means for Kentucky. You put pressure to him, we have maybe a 28-14 ball game. Maybe we put a full game set on going to 3 quarters.
I'll even go as far as to say, Tate, we are rooting for you, but you are not Southern Miss's quarterback just yet. To somebody like me, you see, 2 interceptions last week. I understand the opponent in the defense is bigger than probably one that he's seen, but you were just at FSU last year. You know what I mean? You're not keen to these bigger teams, these bigger opponents, but he's only thrown 2 touchdowns at FSU too. What do you think will be the key to today's win?
Whenever I watched the game last week, he did real well in the pocket. I will say he got it out in time. That's something Southern Miss has struggled with last year with Wiles and even with Jack Abraham. Southern Miss struggled to get the ball out in time before you get a sack. And 2 interceptions was better than I expected. He found his man on time, but one of the biggest mistakes is he overthrew him or he underthrew him. And that's another thing that Tate's got to get down this week is he's got to figure out precision. He's got to get it to the guy on time, right there, right then.
Gabe, are there any other people that you think should stand out this game?
Honestly, every name I touched on, I feel like it's going to be a key point. Now, the whole O-line is a defensive unit. We had a couple people leave out in Jerquan Scott, I think his name is. He transferred to Ole Miss. He was a big part. He was a conference tackle, all conference. He's going to be a big loss. Obviously, Frank Gore is gone. So having that workload being split between 3 different running backs, it's kind of interesting. We did it well against Kentucky. It just didn't produce what we wanted it to. But I like the idea that Coach Hall has going. Defensive-wise, pretty much all the defense has returned. Maybe like Jay Stanley, he's been here a while, he was gone. Avery, he's in the NFL. People like that, those are your playmakers who we got to find a spot for replacing.
100%, Gabe. Now, Andy, this is a FCS opponent. They haven't been good since 2022, where they won basically all their games except for 4. Tell me how important is a win like this to the early season with the environment being what it is and with us coming off that big loss?
No matter how the season started out or even if it's the first game of the season, a win is a win. Big win, little win, as long as you're winning the game, it counts good. A lot, and just same way, a loss is a loss. Whether we're playing a team like Mississippi Valley State that hasn't been a good team in 40 years, or if we're playing a team like North Dakota State who is winning championships every year, Southern Miss needs to go out there with the winning mentality and not let their guard down. Southeast Louisiana played Tulane last weekend, and it was 21-0 at halftime, which is pretty small for a team like Tulane to have an FCS team at halftime. Southern Miss needs to get their head in the game to actually produce in this game, which I think they can do.
Thank you so much. Listen, speaking of wins and losses, Gabe, talk to me a little bit about predictions for this season. How do you think our Golden Eagles will do? I'll give mine at the end, but what do you think the record will look like? How do you think some of these matchups will be? Give it to me, Gabe.
Okay. Now, next week, I'm already chalking that as a definite loss.
Okay.
USF's going to come down here after getting either completely demolished by Bama or having a close game until the fourth quarter. They're going to come hungry regardless. Then after that, we have Jack State in Alabama. You know, they're a CUSA team. They're kind of small. We should be all right. ULM, it's at ULM again. That's another game we should win. But then you get down to the last 2 games of the season with South Alabama, whose coach is gone, a lot of players gone. But after that 66-3 butt whooping we had last year, we got to come back. And then having Troy, the conference champion, in Veterans Memorial in Troy, that's going to be a hard environment. That, if Texas State doesn't hold up to what we think they're going to be, that's going to be to decide the conference. But without players who made plays like TJ Jackson, Chris Lewis, who was out dealing with his injury, I don't know what Troy looks like. They didn't look good against Nevada last week. They actually lost the game, which is rare for Troy to lose now than what it was back a couple years ago.
I mean, honestly, and that's going to be the big kicker with a lot of things that we say, a lot of things that we're discussing. It is really early in the season. Anybody that watches ball knows that things change within a second. You know, that team gets to click and they get that chemistry. Andy, what are your predictions for the season for the Golden Eagles?
Well, it's early right now. We can't judge the season off of a loss to an SEC team. I mean, if we played Alabama last week and they beat us 49-0, we'd be in the same spot we're in now. A lot of people would be thinking, oh, this ain't going to be a good year, but we can't judge off of that. I think that this week should be a pretty good win for Southern Miss. Next week will be a telltale game against South Florida. Like Gabe said, you know, either they're going to get blown out by Alabama or it's going to be a shootout. And then we get Jack State. You know, Jack State was good last year, but it's going to be a shootout again. Those are the 2 games that define the season. We could go anywhere from 4-8 to 8-4 this year.
Listen, I 100% agree. My prediction for the Eagles is very similar to Andy's, very similar to yours. It depends, right? And games like this are extremely important. But listen, speaking of important things, we love a Screaming Eagle. And our very own Gabe was at Screaming Eagles yesterday. Give us a little recap of that.
Screaming Eagles, it was a wild event. Definitely have more passion than we've had in a couple years since I've been here. I actually did get running on the field a little bit. Running out the rock, that's a game day atmosphere that I'd be a part of anytime. I definitely would do it again. Definitely. I would say M.M. Roberts Stadium will be rocking this season from what we had at Screaming Eagles.
Let's take that package.
What's going on, Golden Eagles? It's your boy Gabe with City Gameday. We're here at the Screaming Eagles event to kick off the season. You know, tomorrow's our home opener at 6, but hey, at 11, come see City Gameday, baby. It's going down.
Not all people are the same. And yet, when we visit the doctor, our treatments don't look that different. Why is that? Because we just don't have enough information to do it better. By gathering health data from 1 million people, our country's best researchers will be able to develop treatments that are as unique and complex as we are. With this new information, doctors will have a better understanding of disease so they can innovate the next great breakthroughs in medicine. Learn more at joinallofus.org.
I'm Ariamila Liberti. You may know me from the Netflix series All the Light We Cannot See. And this is my guide dog, Ingrid. I was paired with Ingrid through Guide Dogs for the Blind, the largest guide dog school in North America. Ingrid not only increases my mobility, she also helps me lead a more abundant and inclusive life. When everyone is empowered, our communities are stronger. For more information on Guide Dogs' life-changing mission, visit guidedogs.com.
Welcome back to Hub City Game Day. Let's talk about some other pretty impressive matchups and showings from some other teams. Gabe, I want to start off with you. Talk to me about Cam Ward and the Miami Hurricanes, man. You know, we some Florida boys, kind of, sort of, man, but.
We bring it back to old you. I feel it. I really do. Now, you had your error with the turnover chain. They had some time right there. But the one thing about the newer Miami teams, they don't finish strong. You seen it last year with the Georgia Tech game with the knee. That kind of brought the season down. This year, they have a bigger margin for error with 12 teams. Cam Ward, Heisman finalist. I'm calling it right now. You have two running backs in Mark Fletcher Jr. and then Damian Martinez, who was a 1,000-yard rusher for Oregon State last year, who got them where they are. You put those two together in the backfield with Cam Ward, you got yourself a team. That defense, they're bringing back the old U defense. I was like talking Ray Lewis, Ed Reed defense. That's the defense I want to see from Miami. The defense that's going to be in your face, nasty. I don't think there was a point in the Florida game last year, and I know it's a rivalry, so it's going to be times where the refs didn't have to completely separate them, to get them to calm down and just play the game the right way.
Listen, Gainesville was rocking, but they said it wasn't as loud as it usually is. I feel like Gator fans are getting down on themselves. But that Miami team this year, and we say it a lot, but I think this Miami team this year is the truth. Now, something else that's going on, we got Patrick Mahomes' little cousin. Andy, give us a little bit about what Nebraska got cooking.
Dylan Raiola. I feel like that's what I got to say the most, man. It's not often you see a freshman quarterback starting for a blue blood team like Nebraska. We didn't see it much when Nick Saban was at Alabama. You don't see it at Texas. You didn't see it at Oklahoma much. You got to be a surefire coach if you're going to start a freshman off at quarterback like that. But Dylan Raiola, he's got a lot riding on him. Matt Rule, I'm just going to say he's a good coach. He kind of ruined himself in the NFL for a couple of years, but that happens to every coach. Nick Saban, greatest coach of all time, went to the Miami Dolphins, wasn't one of their best coaches ever. He wasn't Don Shula good, but he was all right. I feel like Nebraska's got a good chance. They're going to be, I think they can make the playoff this year. I don't see them winning the Big Ten, but they can definitely be an at-large team that makes that playoff this year. If Dylan Raiola keeps this stuff together and Matt Rule doesn't do too much, they definitely got a good season. They got a great chance to make their name shine today against Colorado, and there's a good chance this team goes 6-0 when they go to Columbus, Ohio this year.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. Another great take from Andy. Speaking of Colorado, you cannot be a college football pregame show without speaking about Coach Prime and those Buffaloes. Talk to me a little bit, Gabe, about what you see from Colorado. I'll kind of hit off with it. I see some improvements, not as many as I wanted to. Shedeur, Heisman candidate, might go first round. I'm thinking definitely will go first round to some team, but they're picky because it's Coach Prime. What do the Buffaloes need to do to get over the hump this year?
One thing I will say, they need to establish more of a run game, whether that be you're running the ball traditionally with the front seven, which against North Dakota State, that's a tough ask. But you have people like Jimmy Horn. If you get him around the edge, he might score. Travis Hunter, shifty, he might score. Shedeur can run a little bit. It's kind of wishy-washy, but he can run. And like one thing me and you talked about, the true freshman Jordan Seaton, I don't think he had any pressure on him as a true freshman. Now the defense, they're still awful.
Yeah.
Your bright spot is Travis Hunter. You know, like especially playing Nebraska today, Isaiah Nayor is not going nowhere. He's on Travis Island, as I like to call it. But the rest of the defense is going to be a problem. They have to get to Dylan Raiola to try to even have a chance to win this game, which I don't think they're going to do, considering North Dakota State's quarterback ran for 112 yards last week.
And North Dakota State is one of those teams, right, Andy, that are sneaky. good. You know what I mean? And it's every year. They beat a big opponent almost every year. They run the league down there in that excuse me if I'm wrong, FBS, is it that FCS that they're in? They run the league in FCS almost every year. May have had a little bit of downtown in these upcoming years, but they're really sneaky good. What do you think are some things that the Buffaloes need to do to get over this hump this year?
They got to get out there and they got to go to work. You know, I look at a lot of things from a historical aspect. When you look at the last season that Colorado won a national championship, one of the best teams ever. And they got out there and they competed in every game and they went to town on the teams they played. They were competitive until that last game whenever they got that controversial 5th down. But even then, they still got in that game and they hung in there. And that's what Colorado's got to do. That's what Coach Prime has got to lead those players to.
That battle is it in Colorado? That battle in Lincoln will be something. Andy, talk to us a little bit more about what Nebraska needs to do to get over this hump. A lot of people think that they're going to completely obliterate the Buffs because, like Gabe said, that defense doesn't look too sharp. Tell me a little bit about what Nebraska's keys will be for this game.
All time, the Cornhuskers are one of the greatest teams. You know, when they get out there and whenever they actually get their heads in the game and they start competing, they can take anybody down. You look back at 1995, one of the greatest college football seasons ever and one of the greatest teams ever were the 1995 Nebraska Cornhuskers. Every game they won by 3 or more touchdowns. When they played Colorado that year, number 7 Colorado, big rivalry, big college game day game, they beat them 44-21. That was their closest game that whole season. And it takes getting out there, getting in the game, you know, and different coaches have different things, but every team has the same thing. They got to get out there, get their heads in the game, forget about everything else. The game is on the line. They got to get in there against Nebraska. Against Colorado, and it can be a close game. It could be a 35-34 game. But if Nebraska gets out there, they can go to town on Colorado and Coach Prime.
Man, 100%. Speaking of clean slate, speaking of thinking clearly, Gabe, tell me a little bit about FSU and these struggles that they're having. This DJ Ugalele, whatever you want to call him, DJ gonna be working at McDonald's if he don't get this act together. Talk to me about FSU struggles, Gabe.
See, as I like to call it, the trouble in tally. You can't go all last season undefeated, perfect. Oh, we should have made the playoffs. When you say that and you don't get in, this is your revenge season. Them first 2 games should have been 42-0, back-to-back. Let me tell you something. This is a stat that's unlike FSU the past couple of years. They only have 3 sacks as a team in 8 quarters of conference play. That is a problem. You have people coming, Jared Verse, Jeremiah Johnson. Those people are people who get your sacks. They're gone now. They've been gone. You have to step up. Patrick Payton has to step up. And you would not believe who one of their sacks is for the whole entire defense. A corner, Earl Little Jr. And that shouldn't happen. Your corner shouldn't be leading the team in sacks, or even tied because there's only 3. Now, one thing I will say, them to make the playoffs isn't a long shot. They have a couple games left in Notre Dame, in South Bend. That's gonna be your one that's gonna get you there. But before that, they have to go to Death Valley. No, actually, I'll take that back. It's at Doak Campbell playing Clemson. Cade Klubnik isn't a good quarterback. You can get your score right there, couple interceptions, couple sacks, make the defense look better. You have a better chance. And then the all-important Miami game. That's going to be the game also that determines whether you're going to win or lose. Have a good season. But all in all, FSU needs to pick something up or it's going to be a rough year.
NIL is something that's huge in sports, something that is changing the trajectory, something that is changing the whole landscape of sports. Our very own Devin Winson went and talked to some people about what NIL looks like at Southern Miss.
Ever since the introduction of NIL in 2023, it's given collegiate athletes at all levels and regardless of sport a chance to be compensated. Whether it be through their play on the field or how popular they are off it, it gives athletes a chance to be paid or have their licenses be allowed to be used in things such as the EA Sports video game College Football 25, where players on the Southern Miss football team have a chance to see themselves featured in the video game, such as if they were in Madden 25. But to truly find out the impact of NIL on Southern Miss athletics, I recently sat down with Peter Baeuerle of To The Top Collective to learn more about its impact on all Southern Miss athletics and to figure out how does it help student athletes. For anyone who doesn't know, To The Top Collective is a marketing agency that represents the student athletes of Southern Miss and their name, image, and likeness platforms. And in its short lifespan since 2021, the collective has achieved many good things, as Baeuerle states.
You know, To The Top Collectives, in my opinion, done a phenomenal job of just making sure we're keeping up with the ever-changing landscape of college athletics. And the biggest thing is just making sure that our student athletes know there is a resource and a platform for their brand to grow here at Southern Miss. So much about the decisions that kids make now is based off of that, and you know, being able to embrace that for all of our student athletes and allow for them this platform that represents them and gives them the resources that they need that otherwise they would have to be doing on their own. That's been to me probably the biggest thing that I've been thankful to be a part of, to be able to allow for that opportunity for our student athletes.
When asked about some of the notable achievements that the collective has accomplished, Baeuerle goes on to say,
being able to have we got just under 100 student athletes that we've been able to pay for this year alone. So having a football roster with, you've got 85 on scholarship, we're at around 42 football players that are represented by the collective this year. That's a huge achievement for me because it allows us to invest equitably in all of our student athletes versus focusing on one or two or three guys where, you know, we've having that as an achievement of spreading out the opportunities for all athletes.
The impact of the collective has been noticeable, and a big believer of the collective is football head coach Will Hall, who says,
"Yeah, NIL is the best thing to happen to Southern Miss in a long time. You know, and our fans are embracing it. They've got to continue to embrace it. It's given us an edge. You're able to see that in the big three sports, in football, men's basketball, and baseball, and the way we've recruited. And if our fans will continue to take hold of this and latch on to it and use it as a way to prove that we're the best fan base in the country, we could really, really do some great things and put ourselves in position to be competitive with, you know, I think with even ACC, Big 12, and lower SEC opponents in that space."
While the collective currently represents football players, men's and women's basketball players, and baseball players, the opportunities can continue to grow as membership grows within the collective. Now, a future goal that the collective hopes to achieve is for more student athletes to be able to get involved out of the community, as Baeuerle would go on to say.
Getting them out in the community is my biggest task at hand, is how we intertwine our student athletes with our youth and creating young Southern Miss fans right here in our town. Being a part of the business community, I think is hugely important for our student athletes and our businesses because there's a hand-in-hand partnership with that.
For anyone who may be interested in helping to contribute to the collective, being a part of the Eagle Club, being a season ticket holder, and giving back is all very important, but the collective makes sure to offer a good return for each fan that joins. Now, if you join this fall, you'll have a chance to be at the tailgate for collective members at Spirit Park, where you'll have a chance to meet certain student athletes, along with content that gives a behind-the-curtain feel to learn more about these athletes. For anyone interested in joining to the Top Collective, membership prices start as low as $17 with the Seymour version of membership, the Hall of Fame membership, which costs $44 as the next tier, and the highest tier membership being VIP membership, which costs $150.
We're with Bridget, whose husband won't be home for months, and whose daughter is due any day. We're with Mike, who's leaving home to protect his family and yours. We're with all service members and their families who need community, connection, and maybe a bit of magic. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today. We're with Liam after his 4th military move, when being new is starting to get old. We're with Tara during the holidays, when she misses home the most. We're with all service members and their families who need connection, comfort, and a home away from home. Are you with them? Learn more at uso.org today.
Welcome back to Hub City Game Day. Behind me, I got some really cool guys, man. Y'all go ahead and tell them a little something. As you can see, things are cracking at the Rock. Now, we're going to go into a couple game day predictions. Then we're going to talk to these guys behind me and kind of get a feel about what they're thinking. Now, first up, I want to go Baylor and Utah. Gabe, predictions, quick, 30 seconds.
Oh, Utah, Cam Rising, that's all you got. That's all you need. Cam Rising, that's all you need.
What you think about Baylor versus Utah?
Baylor's a weird team, man. You got to watch them. Utah's got to keep their head up, but Utah takes it easily.
Okay. We got a battle of Iowa. Iowa versus Iowa State. What are we thinking, Gabe?
Honestly, that's a tough one to tell. Iowa can't score. Iowa State's defense is great. It's going to be a tough one, but I have to give it to Iowa. They looked pretty good last week.
What you thinking about Iowa versus Iowa State, Andy?
Iowa versus Iowa State, man, we got the battle of the field goals here. Iowa ain't had a stable offense in years. Iowa State can take advantage of that. I got Iowa State winning by a few points.
Now, this next one is one that will be rolling into Hattiesburg, USF versus Alabama. Now, USF almost came up with the upset last year. Gabe, what do you think about this USF versus Alabama matchup?
The pressure's going to be on Byron Brown to do something in Tuscaloosa, which I don't see happening. Bama's front seven is dominant. Bama's safeties are dominant. Jalen Merrill's going to have a game since he didn't play last week. So give me Bama by 30.
Woo! What do you think about this USF versus Alabama game, Andy?
It can go two ways. It can be a close win for USF, or it can be a large win for Alabama. Alabama's got stability at quarterback for this game, which they didn't have for this game last year. I got Alabama by 5 or 6 touchdowns.
One thing I want to really touch on really quickly, because we don't really mess with Stark Vegas like that down here, but tell me a little bit about the Mississippi State versus, I was rolling. Tell me a little bit about the Mississippi State versus Arizona State game.
Honestly, I don't know. It's going to be Tempe late at night. The heat's going to get to them, exhaustion. I just want to see what Mississippi State can do if they can continue their 66-point win versus the team they played last week.
Talk to me about the Cowbell boys. What do you think they're going to do against Arizona State this week?
Like he said, heat exhaustion is going to set in. Them guys from Mississippi ain't used to that dry heat out there in Arizona. But I got faith in Jeff Lebby this year, and I got faith in Blake Shapen. Mississippi State by 14.
Hey, man, and there it is. Now, we got to get to the guys in the back of us, man. We got some, man, tell us a little bit about who you guys are, what you guys representing out here.
We're Phi Kappa Tau. We're a fraternity at Southern Miss. Best fraternity in the chapter. You know it. Oh
yeah, we're America's fraternity for a reason, all right? We do a lot of community service, a lot of help around the community in general, all right? We help out many people. We got good grades, and we get lit. Straight up.
Hey, most importantly is the good grades part.
For sure.
Talk to me a little bit about the atmosphere out here, man. It's obviously tailgate season. Things are getting ready to gear up. How you feeling about today?
It feel good out here. You know, I thought it was going to be blazing hot. Now it feel good. Everybody out here, wind blowing. You know what I'm saying? We got Phi Kappa Tau. Look, you see how decked we are right now? You see how decked we are right now?
I will say, y'all can't see the tent. We'll probably throw up some B-roll of the tent now. And if you're looking at the tent right now, it's pretty well set up. You can tell these young men put in some effort into this. Yeah, because you said something a little earlier. You know they playing USF. What did you say earlier?
This is my life, my blood, my soul. I might not be in that field, but I'm being in them stands, chirping at the other team. They don't already know all their mama's last names. Here, baby. Yeah, we bleed black and gold, baby.
Yes,
to the top, baby. Let's go.
USF by 90.
Somebody said Roll Tide. Who said Roll Tide?
Roll Tide.
Somebody said
Roll Tide. I'm gonna keep it $1.50. Roll Tide. Bama versus everybody. Let's go.
Southern Miss wants to smoke though.
Rocky's my boy.
All right, really quickly, man, I want to speak to this guy back here. Talk to me about predictions for today. Do we come away with the win? Do we get?
We 100% win. Easy. 100%. I'm calling it right now. We're winning by 10. By 10, 15, 20 points. They got nothing.
Absolutely.
Nothing.
Hey, man, thank you so much for joining us for our first rendition of Hub City Game Day.